People's Reserve is a one-stop shop for everything life, Bitcoin, and real estate. But our main focus is on Bitcoin-powered finance.
People's Reserve is a Bitcoin-centric lending and financial services company specifically built for Bitcoin holders by a Bitcoiner. Today, I sit down with CJ, the founder.
I like to say that we're building on top of Michael Saylor's shoulders. There's no doubt that Michael Saylor has opened the Pandora's box of financial engineering. And I think what he's doing with his convertible debt notes and preferred offerings is more of a financial engineering that's geared towards the corporations and institutions. And at People's Reserve, our main focus is more on the everyday person. So one of our flagship products is the Bitcoin-powered mortgage. We also have our Bitcoin bond product. We believe that the Bitcoin bond will be the lowest risk, highest reward cash flow vehicle in the world.
In this interview, we learn all about the People's Reserve's suite of borrow, earn, and financial products. Smash the like button, support the channel. So much good information in this video. Let's start here. CJK, you've been in Bitcoin for 11 years. Before we get into your company, I want to know who you are, what's your story, and this is before we get into the People's Reserve, but please, introduce yourself to the Altcoin Daily audience.
Well, hello, everybody. It's great to meet you, and thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Obviously, as a longtime vet of the crypto world, I've been a close follower and benefactor of your research and information. So it's kind of surreal to be sitting on the other side of the camera. But yeah, my journey actually started in 2013, and I took a deep dive and started buying Bitcoin. I have a history of being in accounting and later on in finance. So I learned all the traditional things. But then when I found Bitcoin, I started learning all the things that I didn't pay to learn. And that's what really got me interested. I like to say I went to the bottom of the rabbit hole. I planted some dynamite and I went deeper, set up some furniture down there so everybody could come and study with me. And it's been an absolutely an amazing experience. After I found Bitcoin, shortly after I started doing mining, at that time I was building my own rigs, piecing my own rigs together, using GPU units, saw what was happening with the industry getting access to US capital markets through publicly traded miners, knew I wouldn't be able to compete. So moved out of that, but not before I created the Bitcoin fair value algorithm, which miners use to manage their treasury through the different cycles based on cost of production. So been a great experience learning about free market money, free market finance, and just see the world transform. There's no doubt in my mind that the rate and pace of adoption is accelerating, and we are truly heading into a new era of finance. And we would not be doing that if it weren't for Bitcoin and crypto and everything we see coming from the marketplace today.
So you have a history in Bitcoin and crypto and a history in traditional finance, and you are now merging those worlds together.
Yeah, I think that's my biggest advantage. I come from a background of just being taught and paying to learn traditional finance methods and accounting methods, and then being able to understand that and then look at the digital economy and saying, okay, I see why some of these solutions make sense because over here I'm experiencing the problems. I'm living through the problems. I'm watching companies face these problems, and there are no real solutions to these problems. But with crypto technology and of course Bitcoin as the foundational layer of the internet economy, a truth ledger that can't be defrauded, you start to see how everything pieces together. The light bulb goes off, the orange pill gets taken down, and you see that how Bitcoin is a solution with crypto there as a complement, helping to move the world of finance into the technology age. It seems it might be the only thing that's lagging behind the movement into technology. But here we are today, and it's accelerating.
Mm-hmm. So introduce our audience and myself to the People's Reserve. I know it's finance in the crypto space, but please tell us, what is the People's Reserve?
Yeah, the People's Reserve is a one-stop shop for everything life, Bitcoin, and real estate. But our main focus is on Bitcoin-powered finance. We believe that Bitcoin is the most pristine form of collateral in the world, and we believe that in the future, the real risk-free borrower in the marketplace and the real risk-free rate of return is going to be established in the Bitcoin-powered finance marketplace. When it comes to credit markets and cash flow, there is no better form of collateral than Bitcoin. And right now, Wall Street is monetizing Bitcoin as digital gold. And I believe what comes next is the financialization of the asset class. So People's Reserve is positioned to take advantage of a successful monetization and then eventually financialization. And what do I mean by financialization? I mean plugging Bitcoin in to traditional financial products and business models. And it turns out when you plug Bitcoin into these different products and business models, you can actually optimize the business. You can increase bottom lines. I think the famous way to say that today is Bitcoin is the hurdle rate. But we can't go in an economy that you only invest in Bitcoin. There's no goods, there's no services. You only invest in Bitcoin and hold Bitcoin to create value. No, there's going to be an economy. There's going to be a world where people shake hands and provide goods and services to everybody else. That's how the economy works. But when you integrate Bitcoin into that economy, it turns it into a powerhouse. It mitigates risk, it increases efficiency, and it increases bottom line. So I think we're poised here to see Bitcoin's integration lead to an economic explosion that a lot of mainstream heads don't talk about because we're so focused on Bitcoin as digital gold in the mainstream narrative. But really, I think for people like yourself and your audience who have been following closely, they understand Bitcoin is so much more than digital gold, and crypto is so much more than just a small niche technology. This is going to be integrated, and when it is, it's going to optimize the economy, optimize business, and that's going to lead to some growth that I think the traditional economists are not expecting to come from such a niche part of the world. And Bitcoin and crypto will come and take the main stage, center stage. And I think in the United States, we're seeing that now, with the current administration pushing for USA to be the crypto capital of the world. That's amazing. That's such a big stride of progress. And the good thing is that unlike a lot of political promises, I don't believe it's a false promise. I believe this promise is actually going to deliver. And when we integrate Bitcoin and we optimize, we're going to see some benefits as a people and a society that you can't really put a value on right now. And that's what gets me so excited and passionate about People's Reserve playing a role in help ushering in that new era of finance that can increase everybody's quality of life and standard of living simply because of a stronger, more sound money foundation than the current system.
Mm-hmm. And in Bitcoin and crypto and the Altcoin Daily audience in general, there are people with work on Wall Street, rich people, average people, regular people doing things with crypto. When I go to your website and I look at your products, who are your products for?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think we can serve everybody that you just mentioned. It really is a one-stop shop for everybody. And I like to say that we're building on top of Michael Saylor's shoulders. There's no doubt that Michael Saylor has opened the Pandora's box of financial engineering. And I think what he's doing with his convertible debt notes and preferred offerings is more of a financial engineering that's geared towards the corporations and institutions. And at People's Reserve, our main focus is more on the everyday person. So one of our flagship products is the Bitcoin powered mortgage. So obviously institutions are looking for cash flow, and a preferred offering with a guaranteed cash flow is more interesting to that institution or corporation versus a backing of a mortgage. But for the everyday person who's working and clocking in and clocking out and delivering value to the economy, and then being a responsible saver by spending less than they're earning and then taking those savings and putting it in Bitcoin as a savings technology, how do they get empowered besides just number goes up? And that's where People's Reserve comes in with financial engineering for the everyday person. By integrating Bitcoin into a mortgage product, those responsible savers of Bitcoin, they can now unlock the purchasing power of their Bitcoin without giving up ownership. And that kind of goes back to my experience. Every product or service we have here at People's Reserve is really based off of either a failure or an experience that I had over my journey in this industry. And in 2019, I bought a single family home for 100 Bitcoin. So today, 100 Bitcoin, pretty much worth $12 million. My home, my single family starter home, I'd be lucky in this marketplace with interest rates where they are to get $500,000 for my home. So looking at that and saying, wow, I could have $12 million of value on my balance sheet. Instead, I have, a $500,000 home that cost me time and energy to maintain. And I knew that created a problem. So the goal was to create a product that allows these responsible savers to, again, unlock that purchasing power without giving up ownership, which is transforming Bitcoin from just a money to a collateral. And then, we also have our Bitcoin bond product, which is catered towards both corporations and people who are looking for cash flow. We believe that the Bitcoin bond will be the lowest risk, highest reward cash flow vehicle in the world. And what we do is we simply combine US Treasuries with Bitcoin. And it could be a treasury note or it could be a municipal bond note as well.
It's described on your website, I see. Fuse US Treasury debt with Bitcoin. This is your lowest risk, highest reward cash flow vehicle.
Absolutely. And the magic of it is this, the way that it's structured. So it's actually, we call it a Bitcoin bond, but technically it's a principal protected note. And this is really important, not only for the individual, but also for small and medium sized businesses who have reached out to us looking for a way to get exposure to Bitcoin. We all know that we have these big multi-billion-dollar institutions becoming Bitcoin treasury companies, right? Doing 4 and 5, $700 billion SPAC deals to accumulate Bitcoin. But how does the everyday small and medium-sized business get exposure to Bitcoin? For your listeners who run an SMB, they understand, look, the revenues that I'm bringing in, I need to reinvest that into my business. I can't be buying large chunks of Bitcoin, keeping it on my balance sheet and trapping that equity on my balance sheet. What happens if I need to hire a new employee? If there's land, labor, and material costs that need to be covered, revenues roll back into the business to grow the business. It's really hard to get exposure to Bitcoin when you're in that situation. It's not fair. But this principal protected note, number one, it's structured in a way where it protects your principal. So if you invest $1 million into a Bitcoin bond and the current rate on that note is 4.5%, we put 80% of the million into the debt note. In this case, it would be a treasury note or a municipal bond.
And quick question, I'm trying to understand these products. I think a lot of people don't understand traditional financial products, let alone as we're describing them in the new era with Bitcoin. But for the Bitcoin bonds, for somebody to take advantage and get something out of this, they're bringing in, is it like stable coin or Bitcoin?
Yeah, they're bringing in dollars. So you buy the bond with dollars. There's just like a treasury note, the minimum is $100. There's no maximum. And the idea of the product is I need cash flow with principal protection. So there's a lot of different vehicles out there that are designed for cash flow. A lot of the yield max ETFs and Bitwise ETFs have become famous for creating cash flow through writing covered calls and puts and different strategies. But then you have NAV erosion. You have the natural asset value of the ETF erodes over time as they distribute dividends or do rock distributions. So what happens is that you invest 500,000 and you're supposed to earn that same 500,000 back over the course of a year, but your principal value goes down. So then you take what you earn and you subtract the loss in your principal, and now you have your yield or your gain. But a lot of businesses can't swallow that downside on principal in anticipation of a cash flow yield that could change based on the dynamics and volatility in the marketplace. So our principal protected note, our Bitcoin bond, is structured so that a business or a person knows that the principal that they invest is secured. So even if Bitcoin goes to zero, which I don't believe, I know you don't believe it, your audience doesn't believe it, but even if it did go to zero, if you invested $1 million, at the end of that 5-year note, you have $1 million. You cannot lose. It's structured that way on purpose to reduce risk as much as possible. But what's left over is the performance of Bitcoin. So if the 80% goes into the treasury note or the municipal bond, the 20% goes into Bitcoin, which is the 200,000. And I'm sure your audience is aware, the compounding annual growth rate of Bitcoin over a 5-year period is over 60%. In a 10-year period, it's over 80%. But a 60% CAGR in 5 years equates to a 10x. So that $200,000 will turn into $2 million. So now the best performing asset in the world, Bitcoin, is the source of yield on your note. And what happens is over the course of time, you do get your distributions every 6 months from the treasury allocation, creating cash flow for you. And then at the end of the maturation, you have your principal returned to you. So principal plus interest equals principal protection. But then Bitcoin performance equals your real yield. And with Bitcoin being the best performing asset in the world, it'd be like every 5 years, you're getting a raise at work because you can now roll that maturation value of 3 million is now rolling into the next issuance. And you don't need to roll all three if you don't need to, but you have the ability to do that. So you could triple your cash flows and you can find a way to outpace inflation, right? That's what all of our listeners are doing, whether it's them individually or they're running a business. Costs are going up. Those costs need to be pushed to the consumer. If they're not pushed to the consumer, your profit margin goes down. You need to find a way you need to find an investment vehicle that is going to outpace the real rate of inflation. And when you integrate Bitcoin into the cash flow vehicle, I believe and we believe at People's Reserve that is the only way to outpace the real rate of inflation. So we couldn't be more excited to be able to help all types of customers, corporate, institutional, personal, and even small and medium-sized businesses.
Hmm. So we understand Bitcoin bonds. That's on the earn side of your products. Another thing on the earn side of your products is real world asset property claim, unlock home equity, as it's described. Could you introduce us to that?
Yeah, this is a really exciting product. And when I first got into this business, I always thought that tokenization would be a really big thing. And I think in the long run, it probably will be. But I asked myself, would I tokenize my house and then take that liquidity and provide it in DeFi and add smart contract risk? I mean, not for my house and not this early on in the game. So tokenization, a lot of the dots didn't connect for me. Now, I still think in the long run, there's a lot to be done there, and we're going to see some success come from that vertical. But what we do at People's Reserve is we actually empower our customers, our loyalty customers, with the ability to claim the tax assessed value of their property in our marketplace. So that's where the name of the business came from, People's Reserve. It's a reserve of money deployed for we the people. And when you come to People's Reserve and you own your home outright, now if you don't own your home outright, you can refi into a self-repaying mortgage, or you can do a home equity Bitcoin line of credit. We have products for you, but if you do own your home outright,
Those are on the borrow side, which we're about to
those
get.
are on the borrow side, exactly. But if you do own your home outright, there's a very unique opportunity here to create cash flow. So you come into our marketplace, you type your address into our search, we do a satellite zoom right down into your property, and we find the tax assessed value of that property, which is the government assigned value of the property that you are paid taxes on. So it's not the market price of the property, it's the tax assessed value. We allow you to claim the tax assessed value of your property against our funding reserves, against our liquidity. So what you are now doing is you are now transforming that trapped home equity into liquid equity that is deployed on your behalf in the internet economy with no homeownership risk and no encumbrance on the property. This is something we do for our loyalty members. So we're really excited to connect the real world to the internet economy because we believe that's the direction we're heading into, not just because the internet economy is the only free market economy in the world, but mainly because liquidity is going to go to where it's treated best. And we see that in the system. Even when the system is wrong, liquidity dries up and they need to print more and shove it into the system. But in the internet economy, where there is no anchored interest rate, it's a stated interest rate, an anchored interest rate in the traditional marketplace, right? We have a small group of men who try to tell us what the price of money is. That's not free market. In the internet economy, no one country can control it. No one country can outcompete it because it's an aggregate of all economies. And there is no entity that has the ability to state the interest rate or state the price of money and then anchor the price of money. It's a true free market interest rate based on the supply of money, the demand for loans, and counterparty risk. So because of that, we believe that in the long term, that free market dynamic is going to offer great potential. So we couldn't be more excited to help bridge real world equity to the internet economy where you can get access to this true free market and generate cash flows with no homeownership risk. Again, you can't be a basic member on our platform and do that, but if you are a loyalty member, we do give you the ability to make that claim and create cash flows with what is otherwise trapped equity in your home.
And I want to talk about the token, but before we get to that, let's touch on the borrow side of things. There's the Bitcoin line of credit. I think we understand that. I have Bitcoin. I don't want to sell it. I want to get a line of credit. There's the self-repaying Bitcoin mortgage you mentioned. There's the HEBLOC, which I guess is kind of like a HELOC. Please briefly touch on that. For people with Bitcoin, they come to your site and they can do what?
Yeah, absolutely. So two different customers, one without Bitcoin, one with Bitcoin. The ones with Bitcoin, they want to unlock that purchasing power without giving up ownership. So we're going to push them into our product line, which is called Bitcoin powered mortgages. Under that product line, we have a self-repaying mortgage and a home equity Bitcoin line of credit. So the self-repaying mortgage is for the people who have Bitcoin. And the biggest difference between us and any other lender in the space is that we've designed our contracts to mitigate price volatility based liquidation risk. And I love to use the COVID example. If you were borrowing going into COVID, I mean, I happen to be somebody who got liquidated because we were going into the halving. So I'm levering up going into the halving. Everything looked good. Price is just above 9,000. The liquidity event takes place. Nobody can control this. Price is heading down towards 5,000. You're getting margin calls. Post more margin or you're going to get liquidated. You're trying to figure out if you want to post more. Minus almost 50% in one day is pretty rough, so maybe we got some safety here. I ended up posting a little bit more margin. Overnight, it went from over 5,000 to below 3,800 and was liquidated. Where it really stings, though, is just a couple months later, it was right back up at 10,000. So from that experience, I knew that I don't want you to, we don't want to finance you and get you into a home and then you can't sleep at night. Well, that's horrible. We have to find a way that you can sleep at night and not worry about this liquidation risk. And there's two things that enable us really to do this. The first is understanding Bitcoin as engineered money. It was strategically designed through its code to store value over time. So because we understand it as an engineered money that will basically de-lever the borrower over time, we have confidence in holding it as a collateral, even if the loan is under collateralized for a short period of time. And then the second thing is adjustable interest rates. So we go back to the COVID example. How we do it in our contract is that every 10% that the price drops, your interest rate goes up 50 basis points or half 1%. So in the COVID example, you came down 50%. And for each deviation of 10%, you get a half a percent knocked off. So your interest rate that you were borrowing at would have went up 2.5%. And then you would have paid a higher interest rate for a couple of months. But then when Bitcoin went back up to 10,000, you're right back at your starting interest rate. So there was no liquidation risk. You're not going to lose the most valuable asset on your balance sheet. You're just going to pay a higher payment for a couple months until Bitcoin goes back to where it's going to be after that liquidity event has come to completion. And what's really exciting is it's not just on the downside, it's actually on the upside as well. So as Bitcoin went from 10,000 to new all-time highs, for every 10% you go above the over collateralization level, we knock off 20 basis points or 0.2%, up to 200% over collateralization. So you can knock 4 percentage points off of your borrowing rate at People's Reserve, which means that if you want to borrow against your Bitcoin, we have the best interest rates in the industry. The best interest rate you can get with People's Reserve is 3.5%. So this is below the prime rate.
Unchained is 14% for if you borrow against your Bitcoin.
Yes, and a lot of lenders right now they partner with a banking partner and they borrow at a certain rate and then they redistribute that borrow to the customer. So they have to have a rate that is above the rate at which they're borrowing, which is typically the prime rate. And today that prime rate is 7.5. So they're borrowing at 7.5 or more, and then they have to flip that loan to the customer. At People's Reserve, we took a different approach. We didn't really want to, I guess the right word would say, we didn't really want to go back to the fractional reserve bankers and beg for a credit line. We wanted to find liquidity providers who thought like we did and believed in Bitcoin as a pristine collateral. So we've set up a fund structure and we've sourced liquidity with zero cost of capital. So in that way, People's Reserve is more of a middleman connecting LPs to our customers. But what that allows us to do is connect our customers to LPs with zero cost of capital so that we could state the price of money, so that we could redefine the risk-free rate in the marketplace and redefine the risk-free borrower from the person or entity who has a printer to the person who has the most pristine form of collateral in the world. And that's how we're able to offer rates that nobody else can really compete with.
And I want to talk about your token and the loyalty system. Before we do that, let's just finish up talking about the risks. People are going to come and be like, hey, I remember a lending company, Blockfi. They went under. Of course, we see ones that have been working well for years, the Unchains, the Maple Finances. But can you talk about the risks in people doing this in general and how, you're not like a Blockfi?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that question because it's something that we're really passionate about here at People's Reserve. I think when you look at BlockFi, Genesis, Celcius, FTX, I like to call that V1, version 1 of lending. And what we learned is that you can't let the fiat maximalists come into the industry and set up a fiat scheme built off of rehypothecation. Because if anything goes wrong in the traditional system with a rehypothecation scheme, they just print the money, right? You think of the bank term funding program. They raised interest rates. The liquidity wasn't there to get the deposits from the bank to the money market funds. No problem. We'll just print it. Well, you can't print the Bitcoin. And what happened was the whole house of cards fell on itself. So That's a really healthy thing that happens with Bitcoin. We get the destructive part of the credit cycle. There is no such thing as too big to fail. And we get to learn from those failures. And what People's Reserve learned from those failures is there can be absolutely no rehypothecation whatsoever. And in fact, a huge advantage you have at People's Reserve is that because we are the middleman and TrueFi, our fund, is the actual underwriter, the Bitcoin held as collateral is not even on People's Reserve's balance sheet. So it's really held by a special purpose vehicle. People's Reserve has no access to this collateral. It's not part of our balance sheet. We can't leverage it. So there's no chance or no risk of rehypothecation whatsoever. It's held in a special purpose vehicle detached from our balance sheet. We've taken all the things that we knew that created the problem in V1 of lending. And with our launch, which we believe will kick off V2 of lending, we're going to do it the right way, and we're going to put the customer first. It's not about extracting value from the customer, which is a fiat mindset. It's about delivering value to the customer, which is a Bitcoin mindset. And we believe with a Bitcoin mindset, you might make a little bit less money up front, but in the long run, because you're establishing trust and you're establishing reputation and you're doing it the right way, putting the customer first, there's no amount of marketing that can pay for that. And the word of mouth will bring everybody to the platform. And not just for our Bitcoin powered finance products, but like I said when we first started, it's a one-stop shop for life, Bitcoin, and real estate. It's an asset management platform where you can get everything done in one spot. And if you're going to do your mortgage with us, or if you're going to take a home equity Bitcoin line of credit, or you're going to just borrow against your Bitcoin on margin, well, then it turns out I think you're going to end up doing those other things with us as well. And not only are our prices for borrowing the cheapest, but also for our other services, we look to raise the bar and deliver as much value to our customers as possible.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Before we wrap things up, I do want to talk about your token, PRN, and the loyalty tiers and benefits in general. Could you explain your token, the tokenomics, and what the loyalty program is?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a well-known Bitcoin maxi. So some people come out there like, what is this? What do you mean loyalty token? Well, because Bitcoin is money and nothing can compete with Bitcoin as money, and anything trying to compete with Bitcoin as money is a scam. So why does crypto exist? Not to compete with Bitcoin, but to complement it. And in our term, we're evolving Bitcoin from digital gold by building these Bitcoin powered financial products, evolving it into pristine collateral. And then to complement that collateral with our ecosystem, we developed our loyalty system. And the loyalty system points are tracked through our token. And what happens is you can be a basic silver, gold, or diamond level loyalty. And every single product and service on our platform is tied to what loyalty level. So your cost to use that service is based on your loyalty level. And for our swap engine, for instance, 25 basis points on swaps. So you're beating automated market maker rates with that swap rate. And with our Bitcoin powered mortgage, the starting rate, if you don't want the token or don't want to hold tokens, that's fine. We're happy to work with you as a basic level user. Your interest rate starts at 10.5%. And then you can knock, if you over collateralize by that 200%, you can knock off that 4% we talked about, and you're at 6.5%. So even if you don't hold tokens, you can be prime minus on your mortgage with Bitcoin as collateral. But if you embrace the loyalty system and you believe in the long-term tokenomics of what we've designed from what we've learned in our experience in the marketplace, at the diamond level, you can knock off that 4.5 or 4% off of 7.5 starting rate. And that's where you get the 3.5 percentage points. So literally as a diamond level loyalty member with a Bitcoin powered mortgage, you have access to the cheapest cost of capital in the world for any home buyer in the entire world. There is no home buyer who can borrow at 3.5%. But because you are posting the most pristine form of collateral, and because People's Reserve understands it as engineered money, and because you've invested in our ecosystem by holding the loyalty token, you now become the risk-free borrower because of how you set yourself up. And that is our thesis on this, is that Bitcoiners and responsible savers who have the ability to post Bitcoin as collateral, they are the risk-free borrower. They should have access to the risk-free interest rate. And I think, next year when Jerome Powell is replaced in May, he's going to be replaced. It's going to be somebody who wants to lower interest rates just like Trump wants to. So when those interest rates come down, 3.5% is still going to be a really competitive interest rate relative to what we're seeing in the marketplace with everybody else, which is typically a prime plus interest rate. So to take advantage of those prime minus interest rates, you're going to want to get the loyalty token in order to qualify. And again, if you're loading your debit card and using the credit card, you're getting the lowest interest rates. We have a health share model coming out. And if you're a loyalty member, you're going to get health insurance with the same benefits you get from the big guys for the cheapest cost in the entire world because it's powered by Bitcoin and Bitcoin bonds, and you're rewarded for your loyalty through the token. So we're really excited to be able to combine Bitcoin with TradFi products and business models and to reward loyalty members with the cheapest costs to the products and services that actually mean something in their everyday life. One thing that I've learned in crypto over these years is that many times I hold the crypto because it has long-term potential and going up in price. But I don't really remember a time over the last decade I held a crypto because it makes my everyday life a little bit easier. It makes those expenses that you can't escape from, like your mortgage or your health insurance, cheaper and more affordable. And for the first time with our loyalty token, there is a crypto that is tied to real world products that can lower your costs so that your cash flow can provide for an increased quality of life and standard of living. And that's what this movement is all about. So I couldn't be more excited to see the crypto and freedom movement finally be integrated into the system so that it delivers real world benefits to customers and adopters of the technology.
CJK, it is truly exciting that products like this are coming to market. And yeah, I was looking at different rates for borrowing against Bitcoin and, Unchained and different companies. And it seems like you guys are highly competitive and even, very Bitcoin ethos centric. And I'm excited to see where you guys go. If you're part of the Altcoin Daily audience, do your own research, linked below, check out their suite of products and see which one is right for you. CJK, thank you so much for coming on today. Give us, a final thought, final call to action as somebody who's been in this space 11 years, understands how traditional finance and crypto is coming together, and now we're here. What should we know?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. I really enjoyed it. It's like I said, it's surreal being on the other side of the camera. And yeah, go to peoplesreserve.com. Look at the products and services that we have developed to make your life better. Find out which products and services you're going to use. And what we like to say is don't speculate, calculate. Because you can look at that product or service and then understand, yes, if I buy this loyalty token and I'm at this diamond level or gold level or silver level, whatever level you choose, you can calculate your savings on the product and service you know you're going to use. So don't speculate, calculate, and understand how that's going to help you increase your quality of life and standard of living. And right now, we are actually in the middle of our token sale. So we're about halfway through. We're about to move into stage 6. It goes up to stage 10. And then after the conclusion of the token sale, we will list our token on Uniswap Live, and then the platform will go live. So unlike a lot of token sales that we've seen in this industry where you buy and you have to wait a very long time, we didn't create the token to build something. We built something first and then introduced the token so that our customers can understand the value they're going to get from it so that you can buy that token and in very short order get onto the platform and benefit from that purchase so that you can start to see those savings and have that free cash flow. And I think that's the most important thing. And of course, follow along on X at CJ Konstantinos and at People's Reserve. I believe that People's Reserve is at the tip of the spear for financial engineering for the everyday person. So whether you become a customer or not, follow along, interact with our community, and ultimately it's our experiences that help us develop our products. So if you had an experience in the industry that you know that this technology can solve, get in touch. We'd love to develop a product and innovate and create revolutionary products powered by Bitcoin, powered by crypto and blockchain that are going to make everybody's life better. And then with this administration looking to make the USA the crypto capital of the world and governments around the world moving towards adoption, now is the time to innovate. Now is the time to prove that the technology really can help make the world a better place. And we couldn't be excited to be at the head of that.
CJK, thank you so much for coming on Altcoin Daily today. See you next time.